Hi, everyone. Welcome to our last episode of Behind the Burnout. I
Aww.
know it's a little bittersweet, but we're so excited to be wrapping up things with you guys. My name is Afreen.
And I'm Sade, and we just want to say seriously thank you guys for sticking through with us and listening in
Mhm.
and always commenting and interacting with our posts and our stories. Thank you, thank you. It has been such a wonderful and also powerful ride. We've
Mhm.
laughed, we've gotten to the real about burnout, we've shared our experiences and tips, and hopefully we've all learned how to unlearn a few things along the way.
And today we're closing out the series with a big bang. We're talking about what comes next, which is recovery, reframing our success, a few resources we have for you folks, and how workplaces, schools, and systems can actually show up for us.
Because honestly, burnout doesn't disappear after one deep breath or a day off. Real healing
Mhm.
does take time and support, and sometimes relearning everything we thought we knew about productivity and self-care.
Exactly. Say it louder for the people in the back. So, we're going to start by exposing the myth of hustle culture,
Dum, dum,
how
dum.
it became so deeply ingrained in our lives, who actually benefits from it, and why we equate busyness with worth. And then we're going to challenge traditional ideas of success. Does it always mean money and status? Or can fulfillment and happiness also count as success? And finally, we'll explore the future of work. Maybe instead of 5 day work weeks, we can have four and have 3 days off to have a flexible schedule. And is it time to completely rethink productivity?
As the saying goes, work hard, hustle harder, and never stop grinding. I know this is just
Mhm.
one example of some sayings that we've always heard in a world obsessed with constant achievement. Hustle
Mhm.
culture has convinced us that being busy equals being successful. But is this really true? So, if you're someone who's ever felt overworked, overwhelmed, or you're like constantly running on empty, then our final episode is for you. I think I just got a little bit emotional just saying that. Sorry.
Girl, me too. Just hearing you say final episode just was like, this is our last one. No more chats between Sade and Afreen.
I know it has been so much fun, but we're not done yet.
We are not. So let's dive into it. How do we move from burnout to balance and reclaim wellness on our own terms? Because self care isn't just a solo mission, it's a community thing, it's a structural thing as well. And you deserve more than just advice to take a bath and get back to work.
So let's take a second to reflect. Well, for the last four episodes, we've talked about what burnout really is, the myth of bubble bath self-care, the difference between personal and work burnout, and how systems play a huge role in either helping us recover or pushing us deeper into burnout.
So much of this series has been about unlearning, learning, unlearning hustle culture, unlearning that we have to earn our rest, and unlearning that burnout is our fault. I wonder who came up with that.
Some crazy person, and obviously society.
Literally.
So let's talk about how hustle culture became the norm. Hustle culture didn't just appear out of nowhere. It has very deep roots in our history with capitalism and modern social pressures. So let's break it down. So starting with the historical roots, Weber and Kelberg, 2013, they talk about the Protestant worth ethic, which popularized in the 16th and 17th centuries, linked hard work to morality and divine favor. So if you weren't constantly working, you were either lazy or sinful, which, wow, kind of crazy.
Can't believe that.
And then we have Rolick 2019, who talks about the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries, which transformed work into a nonstop, machine-driven cycle where longer hours meant more productivity and higher profits.
Wow.
And then the oh so ever popular American dream, which has reinforced the idea that success was built on relentless hard work, pushing the narrative that if you're not succeeding, you're just not working hard enough.
Can't believe that's a thing.
Yeah. Could you imagine someone telling you, oh, you're not seeing results because you're just not working hard enough and you're working like 40 plus hours, maybe even more, and doing everything you can,
If someone told me that and I had the right and did not need to look for another job, I would quit right on the spot.
right? Which brings us into our favorite word, capitalism. Oof.
Capitalism, don't
We
we
love
all just love it?
it. In modern capitalism, companies benefit the most from hustle culture because that means workers are encouraged to go that extra mile without necessarily getting extra pay, which,
I can say definitely, sorry, not to cut you off,
oh
but I
no,
can say definitely in my company, they are wanting you to do all the work within your time frame and they refuse to give overtime. They're like, we're not going to pay overtime. You needed to get it approved by your managers, like has to go above and beyond to get that overtime approved. Otherwise it's not happening. If you did overtime, you're not getting paid for it. Whatever you did in your 9 to 5 and that little, let's say, an extra hour, that was free. You worked labor.
gosh. No, literally, that reminds me of my friend. I recently was with her and she was working from home and, she's taking calls and
Mm-hmm.
she's done at 4:30, but she sometimes may get a call at like 4:28 or 4:29. And so I
Mm-hmm.
asked her if it takes longer, do you get paid extra? And she was like, no, basically you can just kind of come in earlier. I mean, come in later, sorry, because you um finished later. And then when she
Mm-hmm.
tried that happen, the manager is basically like, that's not a real thing here. Don't even try
Oh,
that.
wow.
So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, really just work for free. Doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
anything. And I mean, like, especially I think about teachers who are always constantly working. And then they're like, no, but you can get it done in the day. It's fine. All that stuff, all the marking, all the other stuff that you got to do, you can get it
Mm-hmm.
done.
Yeah, not possible.
Yes, because, overtime culture became normalized, even though they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to now take it away, really. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to fit everything in that time frame, but it became normalized, especially in corporate environments where staying late is seen as a dedication rather than overwork, which I definitely have seen. I've watched like a lot of like TikToks where like people will be like, come into work with me, and they start at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then they're
Mm-hmm.
like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, that's insane.
Literally, I've seen videos as well in I believe it was in Korea actually. I saw a video of somebody saying that they have a lot, their culture, their work culture is basically you come in super, super early before you even have to start. You have to be there. And then you have to work all day. And it's a norm for all of them to leave super late. Even if you're supposed to be finished at 4 or 5, you're leaving at 8 o'clock because regardless if you finished what you needed to do in that moment or not, you have more things to do and that should be done before you start your day tomorrow. So
Oh
you're sitting there doing that overtime, maybe getting paid, maybe not getting paid, and it's more of like you said in these corporate environments is that you're staying late. It means you're showing you're dedicated, you're showing that you like your job, you love your job, and that you should be there and that no one can take your place. But again, like we mentioned earlier, is they can always replace you since
no,
the
real.
seniority and all.
Oh my gosh. I have seen like, Korea's work culture and Japan's work culture as well. I remember
Mm-hmm.
because I'm an anime lover, I remember they were talking about some of the studios and like the animators were like, yeah, we only see our family like 2 to 3 times a week because we're
Wow.
always constantly working on getting these episodes out for you guys on time because they have, deadlines. And so,
Right.
constantly working. And then it's kind of crazy that, like, can you imagine only seeing your family 2 to 3 times a week because they're like, yeah, you got to
Mm-hmm.
get this done and you can't. And like, even like, I saw, TikTok is my Google and, all my social platforms. But this one girl, she like was recording her boss and she's like, bye,
Mm-hmm.
see you tomorrow. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, it's 5 o'clock. He goes,
Hmm.
5 o'clock doesn't mean we're done working and you should leave. I'm like, I think it does actually because
Hmm.
my 9 to 5 says 9 to 5.
Hmm.
I will work on the work when it's work because who would want to do
It's
that?
as simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, like, even people who have like work phones, sometimes they can't even put it down. I know, like, my boyfriend literally was like, I don't look at my work phone until I'm at work. And I was like, I love that balance for you because, like, can you imagine just having that work phone constantly, like, being in your face, reminding you that you need to do this, you need to do that, people hitting your phone up all hours of the night trying to talk
Mhm.
with you? No, thank you.
No, thank you. And that kind of leads me into the thing where it said, do you know, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's this one woman on the social media platforms. I don't know, I think maybe it was TikTok or something, but she makes videos on how to professionally respond to all these corporate emails or like, do you know what I mean? Do you
Oh
know
my
what
God,
I'm
I
referring
love
to?
I love that lady where she's like, if someone's trying to give you like a job that's not your job, like this is how you frame it instead.
Hmm.
Like, these are my working hours between this time and this time. I will reply back to you this time. Or if like a meeting is going over, she'll be like, hey, like in like 10 minutes, I'm gonna be done. Like, so like we can wrap it up. If we need to continue tomorrow, we can totally find the time. And like I love that lady. She's so
I
good.
love
I follow
literally, she
her.
has such good stuff. There was this one that I really liked that she said when someone was giving, maybe her boss or something, she was doing a skit, was giving her a workload, and she said that like similar to what you said, my work hours are this and this, but I will gladly prioritize that first thing in the morning. So she basically just said, I mean, in kinder words, just say for this podcast, screw you. I close at 5. My shift is over. I will deal with this in the morning.
No, for sure. Because like, why am I going to work outside and and it's like almost like the expectation. Like if I don't
Hmm.
do it, it's kind of like, oh, like you're not a good worker. I
Hmm.
can be a hard worker, but work between the working hours, it's
Hmm.
that hustle culture again, kind of like giving that narrative, like if you're not working all the time, you're not working, which is exactly
Yeah.
how the gig economy is today because jobs like, Uber, um
Hmm.
what is it, like DoorDash, freelance work and content creation, it's made hustle culture even worse because now everyone has to be working 24/7 with brands who always need to be on.
Hmm.
It's kind of crazy because literally you can just become an Uber driver on top of like say your three jobs because it's almost like you can pick up. I know some even people at my work were talking about, I think it's like Instacart shopping.
Hmm. Yes, yes.
You're like a shopper for people. So like um at our job we have like a 4 hour, 3 hour break before we go back. So they're like maybe even picking up like 3 hour like a Instacart gigs in between the 3 hour break, which is our break. And I'm like, oh my God, so
Hmm.
I'm working on the break. But it's like, again, it's like you're not really working that hard if you're not working like
If
eight
you're not working, yeah,
hours.
and that like you said, that hustle culture, and because I have a little bit of knowledge with it with taxes and stuff, I wanted to mention that these individuals who are doing Uber, skip the dishes, like all of this, those end up being business returns when you have to file your taxes. So you're paying extra for that maybe $2,000 you earned in a year for a business return. On top of that, a lot of these individuals are owing to the government because not enough taxes were deducted. So
Wow.
and on top of that, you have to claim expenses and you have to keep records of everything, the gas and all of that stuff. And um knowing myself, I'm also not a good receipt keeper. Like it will
No,
be
me
in the
neither.
dustbin the same day.
Yeah, like honestly, if it's not emailed to me, and even then, like my email stays unopened for like
Mhm.
8,000, like there's like 8,000 plus unopened emails.
Oh my
So
god.
yeah, I'm not a good receipt keeper either. But I actually didn't know that about the taxes, which is kind of crazy because it was
Yeah.
like, sold to us that's like, oh, like this is a great like side hustle and you'll make so much money. And
No, don't like a lot of people don't make any profit. And I had a friend who was in a similar situation. She didn't make a lot of profit and she ended up actually owing to the government around $600. So,
yeah, I would cry because it's like I
yeah.
thought, my like side hustle was gonna make me money. But I think like with like all like the platforms these days, like Instagram and like TikTok especially, it's like glorifying like overwork, the influencers waking up like 5 a.m. working or working people working like multiple jobs. I've seen a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
being like, come work my 3 jobs with me to do this and that, and they show the timestamps and like, preaching like no excuses. I know like, everyone's like there's always like, those red pill like pod
Mm-hmm.
guys who are like, I have 24 hours in the day. You have the same time as me, but I'm more successful than you because I
Mm-hmm.
stopped working. And it's like, oh my goodness, like it's just being like shoved down our throats. Like if I'm taking a day to myself, like I'm a criminal or something, like I should like out there working like
Arrest me now, officer.
yes, because like sorry guys, I'm not going to be
Mm-hmm.
working like 8,000 jobs. And growing up, I like loved hearing like the compliment, you're a hustler, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize like
What it
subconsciously
actually meant.
because I always have like since the time I was 16, I've always had 2 jobs plus school,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of just been my norm for like
Mm-hmm.
past like 8 plus years. Oh, let me okay, well math. I don't know. But I'll say 6 years. So for the past like 6 years, I've always had 2 jobs in school. And like, everyone's always like, oh, you're such a hustler. This is great. But I don't think I realized like what that was like
Mm-hmm.
creating like when I only had 1 job in school, I was like, I need another job. Like it was almost like
Mm-hmm.
I was restless without it because it felt like I wasn't working as much. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as successful and which kind of sucks because it's like I'm tired. I should take the time to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just couldn't like sit still because it felt like I wasn't working as much.
No, agreed. Like that once that mentality is in your brain, it's really hard to take it out. And like we said, there's a lot of unlearning that we have to do, and a lot of learning that we have to do to start learning all the positive things and the aspects that we take away from all the podcasts that we've learned so far. Like um, making sure that that self care is for you. It should be implemented by your companies or organizations, but it's not, unfortunately. And it's not your fault that you're burnt out. It's don't feel guilt for trying to take time off for yourself, because at the end of the day, that's what you need. That's what your mind needs, your body needs, your soul needs, if we want to take it one step further. And so yeah, you just need that time for yourself, and don't feel guilty taking it, because I know that Sade and I will need plenty of time once the semester is over.
Right? And it's easy to compare yourself to what you see on social media. Obviously, this
Mm-hmm.
is what's being sold to you. You don't really know what's going on. And, like the famous saying, comparison is the thief of joy. If you are always looking around and comparing
Mm-hmm.
yourself, of course, someone that has 10,000 apples is going to think like, and you're like 2 apples, you're like, okay, I'm going to be like, keep looking around or like you're
Mm-hmm.
not grateful for your family. I don't know why I said apples. Like I thought I was going somewhere with that, but I meant to say family. I meant to say like
Okay, I was so into it. I'm like, ooh, apples are in the story now.
yes, yes. Obviously, you are going to look at something that someone else has and see more versus like
Mm-hmm.
you in the terms of your family or support. You might think
Mm-hmm.
that person has a better life than me, and you're not going to appreciate the things that you have because, the hustle culture again is just being pushed towards you. You're like, I should be doing this more. I should be doing this, and you almost feel like bad about yourself because you're not pushing yourself, which also ties to like how like hustle culture has like a psychological toll on you because it affects your mental health because you're burnt out, you're exhausted, you're stressed out again, you're guilty because you're not feeling like you're working enough, and then obviously because you're not, you feel like all these emotions sometimes it might lead to, not
Mm-hmm.
sleeping, or if you're hustling too hard, then you don't have enough time to sleep, which is very, very important. Your sleep is like number one. You always should be getting your 8 hours of sleep at least. And
I know I'm guilty of not getting those 8 hours.
me neither. I'm talking like I'm like so much better. I will have work at like 7 in the morning and go to sleep at 2 because I had stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, like, it makes you feel like you have like almost like an identity crisis, like I was talking about, like, feeling like not good about yourself because your
Mm-hmm.
self-worth is like tied to like your work and losing or failing and not succeeding, it's almost feels like very personal versus like situational, like
Mm-hmm.
I've mentioned earlier, like, I can only control the things that I can control. There are
Right.
sometimes, which is honestly, it's really hard to accept sometimes that things are out of our reach, out of our control. There's nothing that we could have done about it. And I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
when you accept some of those things, it's definitely easier to kind of take in what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
As guys, if you are not working 2 jobs or 3 jobs or however many side hustles, it's okay. If you just have one job and you like doing that job, then that is okay. You are totally fine. Don't fall for hustle culture. If you would like to try side hustles, like if you have like a business idea that you really wanted to implement or like a hobby that you really like making crafts and stuff and you wanted to sell that, I think totally when it sparks from passion versus
Mm-hmm.
feeling of I need to do it because you're feeling desperate. I think when it's done in passion and love and care, you can kind of see that your side hustle will feel more like fun versus like
Mm-hmm.
stress for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, versus like I feel like that would be great if you could just do it more in passion because, hustle culture doesn't really like benefit the workers. It it benefits corporations and the people that are selling the books and
Mm-hmm.
the buy my course and learn how to become rich right away or all those
Yeah, of
kind of
course.
things. All those side hustles. There's like so many these days and they're like half of them are scams or like
Mm-hmm.
hear the information and they're like, "Oh, you can totally learn how to get rich in like 10 steps if you buy my like $500 course and then do this and do that." And it's just kind of like also they're just trying to take your money. I mean, maybe some of them are very successful. I'm not sure, but again, just be weary. Do your information, do your research about
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Because what you just said, like similarly in the sense of when we're with our youth, right? Like if you're giving that, if you're coming from like a passionate standpoint, like you want to help them out, you want them to be successful, be in a better place, in order for that to be, your end goal for them and accomplish that, you need to first know where you are as an individual and take care of yourself first. Because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to bring that onto somebody else and have the responsibility of another life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it comes into learning to love yourself, learning to take time for yourself. And while you're doing these things, like whether it's a hobby, whether it's things you like reading or painting, through these activities, you learn a little bits and pieces about yourself. You'll notice things that you haven't seen before and you'll be like, oh, I can't believe like I'm this type of way when I'm reading, or I've never learned about this. And you kind of find your way in your journey to being who you are and giving time for those passions. At the end, it gives you the realization of like, I can do me and protect me, advocate for myself. I can do that for somebody else. Until you learn to do that for yourself, you won't be able to help other people. So
Yes.
learn from within.
You know, in the terms of RuPaul, he says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Which in terms of love yourself because it can be very hard when you don't love yourself to kind of give what, you have so much potential and
Mm-hmm.
you're blocking yourself by, tearing yourself down, overexerting yourself because you have, so much potential and everyone is so unique. They all bring something.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has something that they're able to give, especially in child and youth work, there are so many unique individual youths that we work with. And I can
Mm-hmm.
promise you, you as a person, I'm sure there is one thing that you can be able to bring to that youth. Even if you think it's something small, everything matters, even the small things. So, just love yourself,
Mm-hmm.
don't fall for hustle culture, and, kind of just take the time to practice your self-care and, just, love yourself, advocate for yourself.
Of course, I love that. That's something. If there's anything you're going to take away from this podcast, take away the fact that you need to love yourself and take care of yourself first before you take care of others. On that note, so how do we break from hustle culture? To break free from hustle culture, we need to redefine what success truly means. And society has long defined success through constant achievement, which is more work, more money, higher status. But excuse me, but this mindset leads to burnout and exhaustion. And instead of seeing success as an endless chase for external validation, we can focus on personal fulfillment, happiness, and balance.
That's exactly true. I honestly think that like society's always trying to push that narrative that like if you don't have these things then you're not successful. I always like seeing people when they see like a post of someone who's like happy even if they just live in like not like a big house or whatever. They're like they have a nice family or they're doing something they're passionate about. They're like this is what it looks like to be rich in life, which I think is so true because like society has like ingrained in us that success is tied to wealth and your job titles and your recognition. So that's why we're always tying our self-worth to
Mm-hmm.
success, money, all these kinds of tangible things versus because it narrows our view and like
Mm-hmm.
doesn't leave room for like, rest and self-expression and just experiencing the joy because, we only have one life, guys, and we should try and live it how we want, not by how we think people want us to live it,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like fit in the societal norms. And, challenging these outdated measures, we can embrace a broader definition of what success is, one that includes creativity, personal growth, and well-being, and not just productivity. So, we'll talk about two unique themes.
Yeah, so as each person's journey to success is unique, like you mentioned, there's two themes that often emerge. One, which is success is subjective,
Mhm.
it's kind of shaped by our values, our experiences, and perspectives, which means that success looks like for one person, it could look different for another person. We might not have the same definitions of success, where for me, success might be something small, like just achieving one thing in my day, whereas success for you could be completing, let's say, your degree. That's the final stage for success. Whereas for me, it's finishing an assignment. That one little step to that graduation where yours actually achieving the degree. So that's an example.
Yes.
And for the second one is our definition of success is ever changing. So success isn't really a fixed destination. It's kind of like a journey that evolves with us as we grow and face new challenges. And so these insights come from three inspirational speakers in the Red Talk in 2023 series, hosted by St. John's University Career Services. So the event featured accomplished professionals from diverse fields offering valuable perspectives on how they define and achieve success. And the three speakers in the Red Talk were Julie F.K., Christine Martino, and Jennifer Witter.
Wow. It was actually really good when I took a look at those. It was really interesting
Mm-hmm.
stuff they had to say. And to, go back on your success is ever changing. How they always say it's not the destination, but the journey. I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes it's hard sometimes to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but then you also kind of have to see like how far you've come and what's
Mm-hmm.
up. I know sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to look at the negatives versus the positives. And sometimes you don't always know what your journey holds. But I think we also have to, like, love the journey that we're on, embrace the hardships, learn
Mm-hmm.
from them, and kind of just, always like saying success is ever changing. Don't always just focus on someone else's success, but what your success is, like Aframe was
Mm-hmm.
also mentioning earlier, because it's always different. Like we say, everyone is unique, everyone is different, all our lives are different. No one person is the same. I think one thing that would really help you guys understand your definition of success would be, if money weren't a factor, how would you define success? So I think for myself, it would be, I feel like I would want to be accomplished in a career, because I think, like, you know, having a career is like something that I enjoy. Some people, they don't want to work. Obviously, I feel like that's kind of crazy wanting to work, but I think it's when we want to do work that we're passionate about is when it doesn't feel like work. So I definitely want to be accomplished in some type of career. I think I would lean more to creativity, because obviously growing up, we're kind of told don't go into the arts, there's no money in it, and you can't really do anything with it. So we always kind of stray from creativity. I feel like I would want to pursue more. I used to love acting and singing growing up, and I feel like I just stopped doing it because I had to focus and, get a job. So I feel like being accomplished in my creative career, even acting, I would love to, like, maybe like try it. We're always told not to do any of these things. So I feel like my version of success would me being achieved in my creative, as well as I feel like my health journey would just be like, I'm able to, if money isn't a factor, then I can afford to eat like super healthy meals all the time, and, go to wellness classes and kind of take better care of myself, because I have
Mm-hmm.
the time and the money. And I think also another would be traveling. So I'm a huge, like, love to travel. I've gone to like a few places, and obviously I want to go to more. Like, I want to do like Europe and Asia, and, go to Brazil and even go to the Arctic, which is kind of crazy, but I would love to just kind of see the world, because it's really interesting. We have so much different cultures. So I feel like, it would be an accomplished wellness journey, creativity journey, and a travel journey, I guess. Those would be my definitions of success, as well as
Mm-hmm.
my family life, I feel like, and friendships. It'd also just be like still having, close friendships and work, and, a good relationship with my family. I feel like that would really be my definition of success, just being happy, without having to like worry about money, and being able to create and go places and just eat what I want and
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling good on the inside so I can feel good on the outside. I hope that kind of framed it for you. I don't know if it's giving you like a little bit of more insight to what you think your definition of success would be.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of pretty much touches everything what you said, but just like growing and evolving as a person without losing like a sense of yourself and who you are in the process. You know, a lot of the times when you're trying to find out who you are, lots of stuff like money gets in the way, right? In order to become, like, sorry, say for example, a teacher, I need to have my bachelor's, my master's. I gotta, do all of this in order to accomplish that. If I want to go on vacation, I need to have this amount of money to be able to accomplish that. If I want to make myself financially stable, get a home, like, um, pay for my kids, like what they need, their education. Like, if money wasn't a factor, I would be able to do all of these things and much more. Whereas where money, when it does come into factor, you have to think 10 times before you take a step, because you're budgeting, you're thinking about this, you're thinking about that. If money comes from one way, it goes another. Like, you're constantly always stressing about that factor. So if it wasn't a factor, I think it would be really nice, because then you'd be able to freely do all of these things. Like you said, you'd have the freedom to rest without feeling guilty.
I
You wouldn't.
sorry. Keep
No,
going.
no. I was gonna say you wouldn't feel the need to be working all the time. Like you said, you have two jobs and you always feel the need to be doing something because you feel like, you feel the guilt of not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, you can see it kind of ends in, the common theme of freedom, living life freely, like you so put it, because it's like,
Mm,
they really do call it financial freedom. So I feel like without worrying about money, I feel like we'd all kind of like live passionately, creatively, freely, and just without restraints, of course.
mm,
I feel like it would just be such a great society if we could all just pursue the things that we wanted to do and not the things
mm.
we felt that we had to do.
Yeah, of course. Because, at the end of the day, it comes down to how you feel and what you think. And if money was not a factor in any of those things, I think we would be living in a great world.
Right? Because in redefining success, it's important to recognize that our own definitions will shift over time,
Mm,
allows us our, aligning our actions with our true values and passions, like we both put, and just finding more meaningful and fulfilling paths forward, free from the pressure of hustle culture.
mm. And for our lovely podcast listeners out there, we were both trying to find resources for you guys to help you either before you reach the burnout stage or while you're in it, or just some self care um, for that burnout. But unfortunately, there were not a lot of resources out there. And it's kind of sad to hear that because we really wanted to get something going because we don't have any of our owns yet. We would love to incorporate or start maybe a future project of ours. But all that was on online was basically governmental websites or different organizations posting what burnout is and how you can help yourself in burnout with self-care tips and stuff like that, which we kind of already mentioned in our podcast. But again, it could probably be time for somebody listening into this podcast, any other organization or anybody who can create a burnout toolkit or a self care toolkit or healing kit journey that will allow anyone who is facing burnout or in the process of, healing, who could use some extra little guidance and hopefully have that kit mate one day. Or maybe we'll do it ourselves as our own little side project.
Right? Yes, guys. Even if you try multiple things, just remember, there is no one size fits all. So whatever works for you in terms of that, hopefully our toolkit will be something that you can kind of even structure in your own way and just
Mm-hmm.
take it and do what you want with it and find, start living your more balanced life and getting out there and living your best lives, as they say.
Of course, and customize it to however you'd like, wherever it fits into your life, taking whether it's a few minutes, an hour, days, however long it is, just to take that time for yourself and remember that you, at the end of the day, are your own cheerleader and you have to stay strong, not for others, but for yourself.
Yes, yes, exactly, Ephraim. And remember, guys, you are also not alone in the struggle. There's always a way forward. And if you need to take a step back, that's totally okay. Reassess your goals and, create space for rest because, true productivity is about working smarter, not harder, as they say. So always continue on your journey, enjoy it, and take the time that you need to recharge and really truly define what success means to you.
Exactly. That couldn't have been said better. And everybody, unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our
I
podcast,
know.
episode 5. I know it is sad to see us go. I know everybody listening in, our wonderful Professor Lisa as well. Um, hi, Lisa. We are coming to our end of the Behind the Burnout podcast. It has been wonderful to be your hosts and guiding everybody listening to the journey to healing. Maybe, hopefully, this helped you get out of your burnout stage. Hopefully, it helped you unlearn some things about burnout, some myths that, you can go onto our Instagram page to see what those myths were.
Yeah.
And hopefully, maybe one day we can make this into something bigger. But for now, this is the end. And although there is no next time,
Thank you so much for joining us on the journey. I hope you guys had as much fun listening as me and Ephraim have had making it. It was truly, honestly, fun to make our very first podcast series on something we're so passionate about. And
mm-hmm.
you guys take the the things that we've taught you, and hopefully you can unlearn some of the things that you've been, normalized to learn about. But
Mm-hmm.
truly, truly, keep going, guys. There's always a way forward. And yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. And this was Afreen, and
Bye day.
bye, everybody.